What's up guys, Gavin here, and today I want to showcase a Rose Dragon deck profile. So this deck has been getting support in the last couple expansion sets, most notably Lightning Overdrive, but also in King's Court. It's made this deck a lot more playable now, and with the loss of LP, because a lot of people were running LP in the Rose Dragons before it got banned, which is completely fair because LP was a very unfair card. But regardless, I do want to showcase some of the combos that you can do after or post banning of LP. So we'll get to that in a little bit after a little bit of explanations. But yeah, I mean, I did pick this deck up, so once the cards come in, I would love to do a live duel versus the Stardust, a good old Yusei versus Akiza showdown. But yeah, without any further ado, let's get right into the profile. Okay, to start for the deck profile, we are on 3 copies of Lone Fire Blossom because this is easily the best starter in the entire deck because it gets you access into whatever plant you need, and if you are able to bring it back from the graveyard off of something like maybe a Cross Sheep, this card can actually swap into another plant because this card is not a hard once per turn, and it's insane. I was playing a version of this deck that did play the Psy-Frame package for the hand traps, but I just decided it wasn't really quite worth it. But if you do use this effect and your opponent does ash it, and you do have a Gamma in hand, you can summon out the Gamma and punish your opponent really hard for that, which is cool. But I just didn't feel that was quite worth it. Otherwise, for the other starters, we are playing the Predaplant engine, so 3 Orpha Scorpio and 1 Darling Todia Cobra. So this gets you access into your fusion spells here, and those are really good with Cross Sheep. So that's why we play that engine. 3 copies of Dark Rose Fairy. So having a level 2 non-tuner is really important to going into your level 5 synchro plays because most of our tuners are level 3. So yeah, this is a really important piece for making your your Ultimate Zolkin, and that's really good for making Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. We are on 3 copies of Rose Princess because it is Cyber Dragon effect, which is cool. Also, it gets you access to your White Rose Cloister, which is a really good card because it allows you to start your combos without committing to your normal summon, which is nice. 2 copies of Caligo Clawcrow because this card plays a similar role to Dark Rose Fairy. It's not quite as good, but you still want to have access to level 2 non-tuner extenders, because for the same reason, going into level 5s and making the Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon through Ultimate Zolkin, and then 1 copy of World Carrot Weight. So this card's just really good to have in your graveyard because it's just a nice little extender and a non-tuner. For the Rose Dragons, 3 copies of White Rose, 2 copies of Red Rose, and 3 copies of Rocks Rose. These are just all really good. It's really good to open the White Rose with one of the other tuner because White Rose is not a tuner and the other 2 are tuners, so it's nice to open this with the other Rose Dragons because it's a free special summon as long as you have a Rose Dragon on the field, which is cool. 2 copies of Basil Rose Shoot, so this card's really good because it revives the Rose Dragons from your graveyard, and it can also special summon them from your hand, but you definitely want to be using it for the revival effect because it's just better that way. It's also quick play, so you can do it on your opponent's turn, so you could bring back a Rocks Rose on your opponent's turn, then get the Rocks Rose effects because if you have this card in your hand, you probably added it off of Rocks Rose, and Rocks Rose is once per turn, so you don't really want to waste summoning Rocks Rose without getting its effect, so it might be better just to take it slow and get some more value off of your effects. 1 copy of Spore. Spore is really insane because it brings itself back from the graveyard and banishes another plant and increases its level by the level of the banished plant from the graveyard, which is really good because it allows a lot of flexibility for synchro plays. It also works really well with World Carrot Weight because if you have World Carrot Weight in your graveyard and a Spore in your hand, you can special summon the Carrot Weight from the grave and get the Spore into the graveyard, and then maybe go into a level 8 synchro play because like to make a Borreload Savage Dragon because Spore there's a lot of level 3 plants in the deck. Lone Fire Blossom and Predaplants are all level 3, so this card can easily become level 4, and that's pretty cool. For the going second cards, 3 Ash and 3 Veiler. The tuner hand traps are really good. Having a light spellcaster is pretty nice for Shen when you make Shen because it allows you easy ways to bring Shen back because nothing else is a light spellcaster. But otherwise, having the tuners in here is really good for Cross Sheep to bring back so that you can go into Halki Fibrax without having to use an instant fusion target or a ready fusion target to make the Halki Fibrax. And having the Sea Monster of Theseus is really important on your field because it allows you to go into your Ultimate Zolkin a lot easier if you have this. So that's why we're playing those hand traps. And plus they're just really good. I mean, Ash is very generic, hits a lot of decks, and same thing with Effect Veiler. 3 copies of Dark Ruler, just because this deck, you know, a lot of the decks in the meta right now just put up a lot of negates. Unfortunately, this card isn't that good against Tri-Brigade, which is the most common deck that you see if you are trying to play this deck competitively, but otherwise this card's just really good and shuts down all those big threats on your opponent's board. 1 copy of Frozen Rose because it's searchable off of Red Rose. 1 copy of Black Garden because it's searchable off of Garden Rose Maiden. 1 copy of White Rose Cloister because it's searchable off of Rose Princess. 1 Instant Fusion, 2 Ready Fusion, and 1 Called by the Grave. The reason why I'm playing 2 Ready Fusion instead of just 1 is because I actually do like this ratio a lot because you can open one of these, and opening these are really good by themselves, but also they're searchable. But if you open one and you need to search, you can search one too. Like if you go for a Predaplant play, you can search the other one and you can use both of them in the same turn, which is good. And Called by the Grave for getting lucky. And yeah, that's really it for the main deck. I excluded these 3 cards, the Ready Rose Witch, the Rose Fairy, and the Witch of the Black Rose, because they just seemed really bricky to me. And I really hate the Rose Fairy because it's just a massive brick in your hand, and I just didn't like playing it, so I just kind of left out this whole engine. Yeah, it can get you into your plays pretty easily, but it also makes your deck brick a lot more. Okay, so that's it for the main deck. Let's go on into the extra deck. So we are on 1 copy of Alvain, the Essence of Vanity, or the Final Nothingness, or whatever this card is called. I don't know if the translation has been implemented into Dueling Book yet. 1 copy of Sea Monster of Theseus. So these are your fusion targets, and they're both tuners, which is important because they help get you into Halki Fibrax. For the Synchros, we are on 1 Black Rose because it's not just a board nuke in this deck, it's also a combo piece, and syncing into that card with Red Rose Dragon is really good because you get actually 2 searches off of it. You get the special summon of Rox Rose, and you get the search of Frozen Rose, which both of those are super plus and really good. 1 copy of Borlo Savage because you can actually make this card pretty easily in this deck. 1 copy of Crystal Wing. You can either hard make this card with the Garden Rose Maiden, or you can actually make it with the Ultimate Zolkin. Either way works and is really strong. 1 Formula Synchron for quick synchro into from Halki Fibrax. 1 Garden Rose Florida because also this card has a quick sync effect, and that's mainly what I use it for, but you can also pop a field spell on your field, give yourself a Rose token, and go into a Black Rose Dragon, which comes up very occasionally. 1 copy of Ruddy Rose Dragon. This card is really cool. Honestly, if you haven't picked this card up by now, I probably would recommend that you do. It's sitting around $15 at the time of making this video, and it's steadily been increasing in price. Obviously, this card is very new, so I don't see it getting reprinted in the near future, and its effect is really powerful. It has generic materials, and just being able to banish your opponent's entire graveyard could be useful. So, you know, a lot of decks would hate to have their graveyard banished, and the goal of this deck actually is to make this card on your opponent's turn if you can, which is a really strong disruption because, yeah, just them losing their graveyard, you know, if you make it like maybe turn 2, that's pretty strong. So yeah, don't sleep on this card. 1 Ultimaya because it's pretty easy to make in this deck. 1 Shen because you can synchro into this card on your opponent's turn, which is cool, and it's a very powerful floodgate. And once your opponent actually commits to the board, before they're like able to link summon, you can make this card and kind of screw them over, which is nice. 1 copy of Boral Sword because if I wasn't playing Boral Sword, I feel like this deck would just kind of fall flat in terms of like being able to push for damage and push through boards. So I do like the Boral Sword. 1 Cross Sheep for a combo piece. 1 Cross Rose for quick synchroing into your Rose Dragons or Plant Synchros. And then finally, 1 Halki Fibrax because it's like the keystone combo piece of the deck that also allows you to quick sync on your opponent's turn, which is really good. So that's it for the deck profile, guys. Let's go on into some combos.